what if we're not bad at money? What if we've just been asking the wrong questions? Right? Like, what if it turns out we're not bad at money? We've just been using the wrong framework to think about it. It's not, can I be slightly better at budgeting? It's, can I figure out why the hell I'm doing it in the first place? Right? Like, it's not, can I know about 7 behavioral biases so that I can behave better with my investments? It's, can I understand what the purpose is of them in the first, like, what meaning am I trying to make?
Welcome to the Advisors Fuel podcast, where high-performing financial planners and wealth advisors discover proven processes and actionable strategies to elevate their client experience, grow their businesses faster, and achieve unprecedented success. Here's your host, Adam Koós, founder at Adrenaline Advisor Consulting at adrenalineadvisor.com.
All right, welcome back to the Advisors Fuel podcast, the show for financial advisors who want to scale smarter, serve better, and build businesses that last. Here's your reminder that the Adrenaline Advisor course and community is officially open to the public. This is the same program that's helped an advisor bring in $7 million of AUM in just 14 weeks. There are a couple of ways you can learn more. First, you can get a glimpse of what we teach inside the program by attending our $1 Million Blueprints webinar, which comes with CFP-approved CE credit, by the way. Or you can sign up for one of our live Q&A calls to find out more and learn if it's a good fit for you and your firm. You'll find registration links for both in the episode description. So today we have on the podcast Carl Richards, a keynote speaker, author, and visual artist who has a rare gift for making the complex financial ideas radically simple and deeply human. For more than a decade, Carl was the creator of the Sketch Guy column in the New York Times, where his hand-drawn sketches made financial complexity surprisingly clear. His work has been featured on NPR, Harvard Business Review, Morningstar, and it's been shared by financial professionals all over the world, including myself. So with more than 25 years of experience in the financial industry, Carl's delivered hundreds of keynote presentations around the globe. He's known for blending storytelling, vulnerability, and live sketching in a way that makes people laugh, cry, and rethink their entire relationship with money. He's the author of The Behavior Gap, and in his latest book, Your Money, Reimagining Wealth in Simple Sketches, Carl invites us to look at money differently, not just as numbers, but as a lens for clarity, meaning, and conversations that move the needle. He lives in Park City, Utah with his wife, Corey, and their 4 kids, whom he proudly calls his best friends. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn in my conversation with Carl Richards. All right, Carl, thanks so much for joining the show.
Adam, super fun to have this conversation. Thanks for having me.
No, I can't wait. I met you through Stephanie Bogan's Limitless program. I'm a member of the Society of Advice since the very, very beginning. And
Really? That's so great.
I have the T-shirt to prove it, by the way.
Very cool.
But anyway, not to get too warm and fuzzy here, but I've always, thought that you're not only a great speaker, educator, but just a warm, approachable person, and just an overall good human being. So thanks again for being willing to hang out today. I know you're busy.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. That's all if I'm ever not that, nothing else matters.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
I think that's why I've been following you for so long, but yeah, an honor to have you on. So
thank you.
Jump in. We both been in business for about the same amount of time. And while it's, our paths weren't exactly the same, I find it interesting that, I went to college for, studying chemistry, biology, microbiology to be a trauma surgeon. And use my dad's words, I became a financial surgeon instead.
Right. You became, or continue to use the trauma word, right? Like whatever that would mean, right?
Right.
Like yeah. Anyway,
No, you're right.
I'm always thinking like rocket scientist, rocket surgeon, science. You became a trauma doctor. Money. Anyway, well, 2 marketing guys should not spend any time trying to come up with a name for what you became.
That's funny. We got ChatGPT, right?
Exactly.
So, but your path, obviously has been anything but traditional. So to those watching, listening, tell me a little bit about how the Sketch Guy came to be and how those sketches became your way of teaching.
Yeah. So probably best with a story, and I would imagine most of your viewers and listeners would relate to this. I was sitting in a conference room early on. So first off, I had no I didn't doodle I wasn't a doodler in high school. There was no warning signs of this happening. Certainly have no art background, as is probably obvious to everybody. But I but the story is I was sitting in a conference room, explaining a concept to some really smart clients. I knew they were smart. I knew they were successful, and I was explaining a concept to them. I was trying to explain a concept to them that I thought was really critical for them to understand, so we could make this decision we were trying to make together. And the part that I have had happen lots of times to me, and I would imagine everybody listening can relate. Like I thought I was really good at explaining these concepts, and I was just getting blank stares back. And that had happened, right? What was different about this time was it dawned on me that they were really smart. Like, everybody else I'd tried to explain it to was really smart too. It was just the first time I, like, had the realization of, like, "Wait, he's an emergency room doctor. She's like, a technology engineer sales rep." So, like, I was like, "Wait, this is my problem." Do you know what I mean? Like, they're smart, successful people. If I can't explain something to them in a way that they understand, this is not their problem. This is my problem. And, there was, like, this little moment of, like, panic is not the exact right word, but sort of like and so out of an act of desperation, there was a whiteboard in this conference room, and this was a shared space, so I'd never really used the whiteboard. Wasn't even exactly sure what was behind those wood panels, right? So I opened it up and I was like, "No, like this." And as I recall, it was about accumulation switching to decumulation. So, like, the arrow, boxes, circles, arrows is all it was. And they were like, "Oh, I get it now." And that moment, like, I don't it doesn't really matter what the subject was. It doesn't really matter what it was that it was even money, to be honest. It was just the moment of taking something that somebody didn't understand, that was relatively complex, certainly intangible, right? Like, you can't put your hands on it, and then them saying, "Oh, I get it now." And I remember the feeling. I didn't make any grand conclusion, that's for sure, but I just remember the feeling changed in the room, and so I thought, "Well, geez, I could repeat that." So I tried it again. I tried it again, and I tried it again, and then there was a whole series of little teeny micro steps that, in hindsight, it's really easy to create a narrative around those those events, but there was no narrative, there was no plan. It was just like, "Oh, I'll do it again." Somebody asked me to, remember somebody called after a meeting. They're in the office, they left. They called and said, "Hey, that thing you drew on the whiteboard, could you take a picture of it to me?" And as I recall, it was, "Could you take a picture and fax it to me?" But I think we had email by then. So I was like, "Could you take a picture of it and email it to me?" And I remember seeing it digitally and thinking, "Oh, literally, that's like the full extent of the thought was I could send that to other people, right? Not like I'll put this up on a blog and write a book someday." Like, none of that. And one thing led to another, and there's a year or two there where I was putting them. I started this little blog called Behavior Gap, and I'd put them up, and nobody was reading it, like nobody. My mom and my sister said they were, but my sister was totally lying. So, like, it was literally just my mom. And then, I just kept doing it irrationally, kept doing it. And then a guy named Kent, who I didn't really even know. I mean, we had traded an email or two, but I didn't even know him. But now I should be sending him a yearly gift. I should have sent him my firstborn son, but he sent an email to Ron Lieber at the New York Times, who he also didn't know. He just, like, knew Ron was it and said, "Hey, you should check these out." And I've had this conversation with Ron. Ron says he gets hundreds of those a day, and for some reason he opened it.
Wow.
Most of them he just doesn't have time. He's a great human. He'd love to respond to every single person. He cares deeply, but he just doesn't have time. He opened it. He clicked on the link for some reason. So anyway, that's how it all started. So
Wow.
that email led to Ron saying, "Hey, I love these. Would you do them for us?" I've got that email. I saved that email.
That's
And
awesome.
I said, "Yeah," and that led to the column, and the column led to the books, and the books led to the speaking. But every one of those events, there was a huge piece of playing in traffic as the skill mixed with a whole bunch of luck, which I have no problem with. Like bald face luck. Do you know what I mean? Like, sure, I increased my luck surface area. I'll take credit for that, fine. But it was still there was moments of just pure luck that are not repeatable.
I know we weren't going to talk about this the surface of luck, but I like how you put that because I always talk about with financial advisors and prospecting and building your business. It's like if you're in Major League Baseball if you go up to bat 10 times and you hit the ball 3 times, you get invited to the All-Star game.
Right, right.
We're not looking to, hit the ball 3 times out of 10. Maybe we just want to swing 100 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think that you're not giving yourself enough credit here, because I have a feeling you probably did a lot of things consistently, and even though maybe they felt small at the time, here we are, right?
Yeah, sure. That's like I'm fine. I just want to be really clear about this. Like I'm fine with all of that. I failed a million times. I was super lonely, still am, wondering, from the hills in Utah, if anybody's listening, all of that is hard. All fine. That's totally fine. Like and the ability to feel like an imposter and worry what people think and get, I mean, the number of negative emails I've gotten and used to read. I even did a segment called like where I read review. I did an art show in St. Louis, and there was a book, like a guest book, and the show was up for a couple of weeks. And when I came back to take the show down, it was in a very prominent art center. When I came back to take the show down, I read the book. I actually did a video about this where I read some of those comments
I gotta
in the
check out
video, sort of like whatever Jimmy Fallon reads mean tweets or whatever.
right?
So and that was really hard. I mean, read that book and was just like, what in the world am I doing? Okay, I'll take credit for all that. And there was still some awesome random. Had Kent not sent that email,
Right.
had Ron not opened that email, right? Those are not necessarily. I put myself in a position where Ron could open the email, but the fact that he opened it, and that's fine. I think we have to account for that in our lives, that there is some magic and some luck. And my whole marketing strategy right now is openness to magic. It's the whole thing.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're obviously a big time writer of newsletter, the behavior gap. You already mentioned the behavior gap, columns, articles, books. Obviously, let's talk about the new book. Your Money, Reimagining Wealth in Simple Sketches. I already pre-ordered it.
Thank you.
Audiobook, which I freaking love, because I always joke I don't know how to read, so I have to read books. But what inspired you to write this one, and what are you hoping people are taking away from it? Comes out on October 21st, by the way.
Yeah, well, thanks for ordering it. For your listeners, like that, it's funny, unless it's kind of inside baseball. Like unless you know about it, you don't know that actually means a lot. So any pre-orders are really helpful. So thank you. The reason for this book, I've been resisting writing another book because I really have my entire work now is about conversations. So there was just a series of events maybe 7 or 8 years ago where I was like, I'm going to try to never touch a keyboard again. That's my symbol for keyboard.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to never touch a keyboard
Understood.
again. Like I just want to have conversations. And and luckily that coincided with the time where there's actually a career for that called podcasting, right? So I was like, this is amazing. And then I realized that there is something really magic about the sort of souvenir, the artifact called a book that starts conversation. So I was like, look, what if I just and I was looking around the landscape thinking there is no book in the finance, speaking very broadly, the finance space, personal finance, that is just it's just targeted to help people have conversations around money, and not hand wavy financial pornography conversations, but meaningful conversations. The kind of thing that you would think of like Young Pueblo's poetry books. I was actually quite inspired by him in terms of the work we're doing. So I was like, could I create a book that was not really a book? It was just a conversation grenade. You toss it into a room and conversations break out. I'd seen that happening with the sketches. People are, they buy the license, they print it, they put it on the wall at the conference room, and they email me. How many clients will stop? Like I've had people say I have it in the foyer, and lots of people walk by, and I've actually had people come in the office and be like, help me stop that, or what does that mean? So I was like, okay, could I make a book that the whole goal of the book was just to spark conversations? And luckily I found a publisher that really allowed me to do a whole bunch of really cool things, because it feels much more, I'm not saying it's poetry, I'm just saying it feels much more like a book of poetry than it does a personal finance book. It feels much more like a coffee table book than it does, an investing book. So that was the goal. That's why I did it.
I'm looking forward to it. Do you have a favorite sketch I mean, you've only done a couple of them, I know. So,
Right, right. Um, my current favorite ones have to do with risk and uncertainty. So I always have current favorite ones floating around. So there's one in the book, and I can't remember. They're all numbered. So that was the other thing the editor let me do. There's no page numbers. It's just numbered by the sketch, and I've handwritten number 7, number 12, so there's 101
that's
of them.
awesome. What a great
I
idea.
can't remember what number it is, but the essay's called Range of Outcomes, and it's essentially just like it's a basically think of like it looks like a Monte Carlo graph, right? So it says,
Yeah.
now, later, and then I think there's only 8 lines, but there's 8 different squiggly lines, and the reason I like these ones around risk and uncertainty is just because I think there's a lot of conversation we need to be having about, um, the reality. We already talked about it a little bit. The reality of risk and the difference between risk and uncertainty, and how do we navigate those landscapes. So that's one of my favorites is like basically a hand-drawn Monte Carlo sketch.
Nice. Okay. I know which
Yeah,
one you're talking about, by the way. But
yeah, yeah,
so I absolutely love this. But you said that with the book, your goal isn't to make people slightly better with money, but to completely change the way they see it. Can you unpack
yeah.
that a little bit for me?
Yeah, like what if we're not bad at money? What if we've just been asking the wrong questions? Right? Like, what if it turns out we're not bad at money? We've just been using the wrong framework to think about it. And so like it's not, can I be slightly better at budgeting? It's, can I figure out why the hell I'm doing it in the first place? Right? Like, it's not, can I know about 7 behavioral biases so that I can behave better with my investments? It's, can I understand what the purpose is of them in the first, like, what meaning am I trying to make? So, I actually think that to me, this is a huge opportunity for, really good financial advisors and planners, is to understand that people come to you with one set of glasses on about money, and it's the set of glasses, we're all playing into that narrative around, there's the entertainment industry that's been built up around it. Then there's the actual really good financial advisor, financial planner, budgeting, financial planning, all of that. But what we're not talking about is like the meaning it has in our lives, the energy that it provides, the fear, so I like, if we can just shift the thinking to one of, we're helping people make sense of it. We're helping people have a relationship with it. I mean, think about this, Adam. Imagine having a friend. So it's the very first friend you ever met. Like, you met whatever in preschool. It's the very first friend you've ever met. And they still are your best friend. And by best, I just simply mean they're still the one you see the most often. You see them a couple times a day. And every time you see that friend, you feel bad,
Yeah.
right? You might even feel apathetic. You might feel indifferent, but you don't feel good. Well, that's our relationship with money and spending specifically. Like, your first relationship with money was spending it, probably. And your most frequent interaction with money is spending. And every time you do it, you either feel apathetic, like you've gotten to the point where you don't care anymore. It's fine. I have enough money. I don't have to worry about it. Or you feel like you blew the budget, or you feel bad, or you feel undisciplined. You feel shame or blame, right? And that's no way to have a good relationship with anything. That's what I'm pointing to, is like, can we see it differently? Can we build a different relationship? It turns out we totally can. We just need to think about it differently.
Yeah. The focus needs to be changed from what it's traditionally been and how we're all taught, I suppose. Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
I know I asked you what your favorite sketch was. In this new book, though, do you think there's a sketch in the book that you think will resonate most, or maybe a couple that will resonate most with advisors and their clients?
There's one that seems to be the most, so there's many of them that, like, you'd kinda look at, and they were all meant to be kind of explainer sketches, but, there's a lot of them that you just sort of look at and point to. There's one that advisors seem to use the most, and, like, actually kind of draw it themselves, and it's called Less Wrong Tomorrow.
Ah, yeah.
And Less Wrong Tomorrow, if you can just imagine the bottom left-hand corner of a piece of paper, it says current reality. And the upper right-hand corner of the piece of paper, it says goal. And that's actually kind of how it started, and that's how advisors often use it. It's just imagine you write current reality down the bottom left-hand corner, and then you have a conversation. Like you're doing this, and I hope advisors do this. Like, like please use these, redraw them like they're yours. Do you know what I mean? You have a conversation around what it means. What does current reality mean? Because financial planning is really a process of navigating a complex adaptive system. And the only way to navigate a complex adaptive system successfully is to be really clear about where you are today and solve for the next local optimum. Like take the next best step. Well, it starts by being clear about where you are today. So you draw current reality. Like that's my favorite language for that. Ah, yeah, it's a balance sheet, of course. Yeah. And then you realize like, wait a second, in that balance sheet is a non-fiction piece of work, but there's a whole bunch of fictional narratives built into every item on the balance sheet. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why didn't we buy more of that? And that was a dumb idea, and I told you so. And so you got this balance sheet. Where are we today? Okay, great. And then my work with you, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, is you've got some desired future state. There's a place you want to go. And we'll talk more about this later, but we kind of use this catchphrase for where you want to go, and we'll just there's some problems with this word, Mr. and Mrs. Client, but let's use it anyway because it works. We'll just call it for now. We'll call it a goal, right? And you write down goal out there, and so now then you say what you're hoping from me and what I would love to provide, and I'm actually going to work really hard at it. I'm going to draw a straight line between here and there. That's going to represent a thing we call a financial plan. Don't worry too much about it. I'll try to reduce it to one page, but it's a lot of work. We got all these big calculations, and I'm going to make this line the best we can. But I want you to know, Mr. and Mrs. Client, that there's a bunch of assumptions that go into making that line. And I'm the best assumer on the planet. Like I'm really good. I got huge calculators. I'm going to kitsis this thing to death. That's a verb now.
No, it
I'm
is.
going to analyze this thing to death, build big spreadsheets, and draw the best line. But what I need you to know is there's an and after that. And I know your lives. You and I both know your lives will not look like that line. So then you draw a line that goes up and down, and as it goes up and down, it gets narrower and narrower as it narrows in. The sine curve above and below the line gets narrow and narrow as it narrows into the goal. And you say things will look more, and then maybe you even circle one of those top bits, or maybe the trough, the peak or the trough, and you say, this is where I'm going to be. This is where our best work's going to be done, right? Is in the course corrections. So that line I drew, important. But more important is it's actually not about being precisely correct today. As hard as I'm going to try and be, it's about being a little less wrong tomorrow, right? As we narrow in on your goal. And by the way, would you please realize this thing we call the goal is going to change. So the whole piece of paper is moving around. And we're going to feel like, are you allowed to change your goals, Mr. and Mrs. Klein? Absolutely. Right? Like, so we'll be talking about that. So that's one of the sketches that seems to be used the most by advisors in that exact way.
I love that one because I'll say, up here, you're not going to call me. Down here is where I earn my money.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I may be calling you up here, right? Because we want to make sure we don't get we can make major mistakes around greed, Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you've presented all over the world. I think it's funny you call it kitsising a verb now. It's kind of like when he shoulding on people, telling them what they should do, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. Look, we're really good friends, so I love teasing him.
No, he's great. I love him.
Yeah.
You and I have both met several financial advisors. In your experience, what are the things you've noticed that separate an advisor who communicates well from those who loses people in the jargon, the word vomit? And I'm so glad you said financial pornography because I totally stole that from you, by the way, and I use it all the time. I got to be careful who I use it around, but it's still hilarious. But
of course,
what do you think separates those people?
It's interesting to talk about this because often in podcasts and presenting, it's not the forum for this. And so it's always hard for me to talk about this because I'm not demonstrating it very well normally when I'm talking about it because it's just not the forum. But listening, asking really, really good questions and listening, I think that's and I'll go a step further. What I've noticed separates a really good transformative financial planner is deep presence. Like the transformative planners, and I have like flashcards going through my heads of some of those people. I was just with a whole group of them at my house. We do these retreats at my house, and we just did
One
the
of my one of my
first
good
ever
friends
women.
works with has been out to your house, Jonathan Upton. He's
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was so fun. Yeah, like the group that was with Jonathan fits this description. But we just held our first ever women's retreat, and they allowed me to
Yeah.
attend. And deep presence. That's what seems to separate people. And so what that would mean is like I would imagine a whole bunch of the people listening to your show or watching this don't need to know more. They need to develop a presence practice. So that looks like sitting a little bit more. That looks like learning to really listen. It looks like paying attention to the feeling in the room. Looking, I call it the crunchy bits, like being on the lookout for the crunchy bits, the emotional resonance, the body language, especially with spouses and partners. The nudge, the roll of the eyes, even the energy, and then learning how to work with that. That's what separates I'm talking like the transformative financial planners from the rest.
And then if you're listening to this or watching it, what we're talking about is Carl does these retreats out at his house where he invites a very, very exclusive, limited group of people to come out and hang out
Hmm.
for a period of time and just share great ideas. And it's not, I wouldn't call it like a business retreat or like a conference by the imagination, but he's also got, the membership, the fellowship. There's this thing called the manifesto, which is really cool, but it's at the societyofadvice.com. Like I said, I've been
Mm,
there forever. It feels like, oh God, I don't even know
mm.
how long. When you first started it, I joined, but
Over 5 years ago.
that's what I was going to say 5 years, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Yep.
I always have my other advisors go through it too.
Oh, thank you.
I know we're running out of time here. So, I mean, we, at our office, we always like to tell our clients the number one reason financial plans fail is because clients abandon their plans. And the number one reason clients abandon their plan is because emotions in the markets get in the way and they throw their hands up and they give up. So I think it goes without saying that advisors often run into clients whose emotions sabotage their financial plans. What are your thoughts on bridging that gap? And you've talked about it already a lot today, so I don't mean to inundate you here, but what are your thoughts on bridging that gap between logic and behavior? Because we're such logical people in this industry.
And I think the reason I would just sort of argue, and I'm sure I'm wrong about everything I've said today, so it's not a problem. But I would argue that the reason clients abandon their plans is because we didn't listen to them carefully enough.
Totally agree.
Right? Like if we were to take, there was a great survey done years ago on the people who high net worth families who had hired an estate attorney, paid the money for an estate plan to be done, and then didn't implement it. That was the population, and we see this all the time. Yeah, of course I've had my estate done. Why is nothing titled in the name of the trust? Oh, well, why they asked why didn't you implement it? And the number one answer, and it was in the 90 percentile, 90% plus, I can't remember the exact number, was the plan didn't reflect what we wanted, which has been haunting me for, I bet that's 20 years ago. It was in Russ Allen Prince's book, The Private Client Attorney.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing is true here is so I would say that the best thing we can do is when there's objections of any kind. Meaning I'm leaving, if there's plan adherence problems, like I'm not adhering to the plan, I'm not doing the things you asked, I'm leaving to hire another advisor, I wanna sell out of my portfolio, any of that. That should be a check engine light in our own minds that says, "Oh, I missed something. I must have missed something." Because if I didn't miss something, the client wouldn't be behaving this way. And again, I realize there are times we can't save everybody, but I think that's the most helpful first reaction, which leads to a conversation around, "Hey, could we back up a second? I totally get it. You don't wanna, or I've asked you like 3 times you've told me to do this, and you've told me you wanted to do this. I've given you suggestions, you haven't done it. I understand you're leaving. I understand you wanna sell this portfolio. Would it be okay if could I have could I be professionally candid with you? Could we back up first? Just a second, because I must have missed something, right? Tell me more about, like, you told me this when we first met, and now this is going on. What did I miss? Right? How can I be helpful here?" So that's how I think we bridge that gap between what we're seeing as suboptimal behavior in the face of what we feel like is all the opportunity to make the correct decision. I think if we just take the approach, even if it's only 1% true, I think we take the approach. I think it's more true than 1%, but let's just say it's only 1% true that we miss something. It's the only thing we have control over anyway. And so I just find it much healthier to say, what was it about my behavior that was complicit? This is a Jerry Colonna line. What was it about my behavior that was complicit in this result? And then I can focus on that. But I think it's because we missed something. The plan must not reflect what they really wanted. Because if it did, right? If it did, and that might be a lifetime process with clients. Like figure, oh, we didn't quite want that. We didn't want that. We did. That's that narrowing in. That's that being a little less wrong tomorrow. That includes goals and values even. So that's how I'd think about that.
No, I love that. I wasn't sure I'd get a aha moment today, but I got an aha moment now because we usually say that's because we screwed up with the portfolio allocation. But I think I need to be. I'm pretty good about not being too nerdy and talking too much in sharp ratios, alpha and beta. But that's even better. So saying that we didn't listen well enough. I love that. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Last question for you because I know we're running out of time. But people talk about AI a lot these days. So in this world of AI, where some news and headlines you see out there in our world, trade magazines even will suggest that advisors are going to be replaced by artificial intelligence. I disagree, of course, but I'm a little biased, right? But how do you see the future of financial advice evolving in terms of leaning into behavioral coaching over technical expertise?
I think this is just an acceleration of something I noticed 25 years ago with my stockbroker friends. Do you remember them? I was at a big firm that will go unnamed but has a bullet symbol is owned by a bank, and there was a bunch of my mentors were all stockbroker. They have probably even used, like, when somebody said, "What do you do?" They probably said stockbroker. And I had entered just at the time where these new revolutions around like portfolio design and goal-based planning, like that was Nobel, you know what I mean? That was like revolutionary back then. And I could see the writing on the wall. I mean, I couldn't. I just thought this made more sense. I couldn't see any writing on any walls. I just thought this made more sense than being a stockbroker and charging an ongoing fee was more aligned than commissions. But I remember having conversations with some of my stockbroker friends where they were just like, yeah. I totally see that this is the way, but I'm just going to live this out till, I only got 7 more years anyway, till I retire. So I don't need to change. I think this is just an acceleration of that I think it's just going to clear up what your value, it's going to make what your value is clear a lot faster. And if you're not sure about that, if you're not sure about what your value is, I think you're going to be feeling increasingly commoditized. I don't know about pricing pressure, but it feels like there's going to be pricing pressure if you're not clear about your value. If you're clear about your value, I don't think any of those things, none of those things worry me. These things are all, in my mind, they're all good. I'm a huge fan. At some point soon, there will be self-driving money. And I'm stoked.
Finding money.
I want self-driving money. I want my money to drive itself for sure. I was just in a Waymo, and I can tell you right now that Waymo ride was way more comfortable and way safer than the Uber ride right before it. But I still had to put in where I wanted to go. And so I think I'm stoked about self-driving money, but where is it driving to? And what happens when I change my mind halfway through the trip? Well, I need somebody to help me with that. And I think that's where we're going in terms of value, is you're still the guide in the never-ending changing landscape called life and markets and the combination of the two. But if you are still a defender of an outdated map, right, that's going to be increasingly challenging. Maybe you can just live it out for 7 more years like my stockbroker buddies. But I think getting clear about the skill of what it means to be a guide in a changing landscape would be at least it's, I don't know. Again, what do I know? But it sounds like a more interesting path than to just live it out for the next 7 years.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I agree with you. Well, I don't know if you said being bad at money. It immediately reminded me of Halsey's song "Bad at Love," and I feel like we need to remix the whole song. I don't know. You're gonna have to be the singer.
Yeah, that is a bad idea. I mean, I've heard a lot of bad ideas. That's about on the top of the list.
I'm winning.
Like this, me being the singer is a very bad idea.
I don't know what that trophy would look like.
Anyway,
Sure. Well, thank you so much. That's our time for the day. Check out Carl's new book, Your Money, Reimagining Wealth in Simple Sketches. Comes out on October 21st. Like I said, I've already pre-ordered it on Amazon because I wanted the book to have in my conference table. That's the only reason I got the book. I normally don't read books. I listen to them. And the good news is there's an audio book. So when you're going on walks like I do, and you can just listen while you're on a walk or on a long drive, you can get it on Apple Books and Audible. And let's see what else we've got. Behaviorgap.com. All the ways to get a hold of Carl, you'll find it in show notes. But thank you so much for joining us today. As I always say, there's thousands of podcasts out there. You chose to give ours a listen, so thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Advisors Fuel podcast. For more articles, videos, and resources, or to schedule an intro call, visit adrenalineadvisor.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for financial or legal advice. Always talk to your compliance department before implementing any of the ideas shared in this episode.